Hello, everybody. Welcome to College of Lore. My name is Kate.
You almost
I
said
almost
Jill.
called
I'm
myself
Jill.
Jill.
What
That's
happened
weird.
there?
I don't know.
I thought I was Jill.
We're all Jill.
Oh no, it's spreading.
Jill, and Jill.
We're here.
Okay, let's try this again. My name is Kate.
And I'm Jill.
And over there is Neil.
Hi, I'm Neil.
And we have
I'm JF.
We have JF with us as well. Today we're having a little convo about 2nd edition D&D because we are playing 2nd edition D&D on Saturday on Halloween for our last Halloween stream. Neil is going to be GMing that for us. He is a 2nd edition D&D expert. He's been playing it for a long time. And yeah, JF is joining us as a player. Jill's going to play, I'm going to play, and we also will be bringing Tilly, who might join us in Twitch chat at some point, but Tilly's going to play as well. But yeah, we just thought that we all have varying levels of experience with 2nd edition, right? Neil's very familiar. I have played it a few times with him. There's Tilly in chat. And we also see Gaming Golfer in chat. Hi there. I've played it a few times. JF, you sounded like you have experience as well, right? What's your experience with 2nd edition?
2nd edition is actually how I was originally introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, and so I always knew it as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I never knew the basic. I guess I went straight to Advanced. I was like that committed.
Yep.
So I played that for quite a while in high school because that's when I was introduced in the mid to the late 90s.
Yep.
Played that until we eventually went to 3 and then 3.5, and then I stopped playing for a while because there was nothing, and then they made 5, which is never bought before. I don't know why.
I do want to try 4.
We're going to. We are going to on this channel.
Yeah.
We are. I have all the source books. Yeah.
I'm familiar with 2nd edition, although it has been quite a while.
Yeah.
I still remember how Falco works for what it's worth, but other than
good.
that, I'm sure there's plenty I've forgotten.
Yeah.
And Jill, what about you?
I have no experience with 2nd edition, which is perfect because that'll help us communicate to everyone else watching who doesn't have any experience.
Yeah, and Tilly can write in the chat to speak for himself as well, but I know that he does have some knowledge of 2nd edition as well from just having played previously. Yeah, so cool. That's what we're doing.
Okay, so I think probably the best way to approach this is just to go over the basics of characters and maybe combat and spellcasting, contrasting with 5th edition.
Yeah.
JF, you play 5th edition, I believe?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
playing 5th edition.
Awesome. So part of the reason that I'm still so familiar with this is a group of guys that I started playing with in the 90s. We continued playing up until I basically put my game on hold last year. So we've been playing 2nd edition for like 3 decades. So we had already invested huge amounts of money in lots of books, and we were not going to do it again. So we just kept on with what we knew.
Until you did. Because you guys are all playing 5th edition now.
Well, okay. To be fair, many people who have discussed the various editions of Dungeons and Dragons have said that 5th edition shares a lot with 2nd in terms of its flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
In any case. All right, so right. Any other questions before I jump in?
Don't think
No,
so.
I was just gonna say, like, we're not getting into the debate of which version is better, are we? Like,
No.
We can save that for the end of the stream.
3.5.
Okay. So one thing that is different between 5th and 2nd is that is ability scores. So in 5th edition, the ability scores are very uniform. regardless of what ability a score is in, the bonus you get from it is the same. That's not the case in second edition. This is an artifact of AD&D, like the original, like first edition, so to speak. In that, the bonuses for each ability are unique. So, for instance, under Strength, you get a modifier to your chance to hit, to your damage, which are not necessarily the same. How much weight you can carry, how much weight you can press, bench press kind of deal, your chance for opening doors, and your chance for bending bars or lifting gates. That's all under Strength. And what your score is determines your values in some of those, or in each of those. But then, for instance, with Dexterity, your Dexterity score will give you modifiers to your reaction adjustment, which is used for rolling surprise or initiative. Missile attacks, so pluses or minuses on your attack rolls with missile weapons, and a defense adjustment, which modifies your armor class or your saving throws. So as you can see, each of the abilities has unique modifiers.
Okay, that sounds similar to 5th edition to me, though.
Well, no, because like if you got a 17 dexterity, you've got a +3 on all of your dexterity rolls. Period.
Okay, so that's not the case in second.
No. So, like for instance, with a 17 dexterity, you have a +2 reaction adjustment, a +2 missile attack adjustment, and a -3 defensive adjustment. Right. So
right, because
it's a little more granular.
Because the AC is the lower is better for that. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
so for instance,
so like the types of things that the skills impact are still very much the same types of things.
Sure.
But what you're saying is it's not going to be a +3 to everything that has to do with dexterity just because you have a certain number in your dexterity.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing that is different is the threshold for gaining a bonus. In most cases, you're not going to get a bonus for your ability score unless it's 15 or better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In 5th edition, of course, it's I think what is it 12?
Yeah.
Where you get a +1.
+1, yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, like most characters are going to have ability scores ranging from like 9 to 14 that really don't do anything for them. You don't get any benefit. Some of them are a little different.
Sorry, Jeff just posted in chat a picture of that book that you have in your hands, Neil.
Oh yeah. So, that's two differences in terms of ability scores. Is that the threshold for gaining a usable bonus is higher, and the bonuses themselves are more granular, as JF said.
Mm-hmm.
And then so in terms of characters.
So.
Yep, go ahead.
Is there anything else? So, like in 5th edition D&D, when you want to do something, you roll a d20 and you figure out what stat is related to that, and the DM figures out a DC and you add your bonus. Like, how is that different?
That does not exist at all in 2nd edition.
Yeah. So how do you?
That is a very significant improvement in 5th edition. So,
how do I persuade somebody in 2nd edition D&D?
With a dagger. No. So let's go to strength.
Okay.
So let's say you've got a 17 strength, and you want to know. You're trying to bend the bars of the cell that you're in.
Yeah.
You don't roll a d20. What you do is you look under strength, under the bend bars, lift gates. You go down 17. Okay, you have a 13% chance of doing it.
And then you roll percentile.
and then you roll percentile dice. So, for instance, Constitution. Let's take a look here. If you have a 13 Constitution and you've been killed and you're being resurrected, you have to roll a resurrection survival check, which is 90%. If you roll 90 or less, you survive. If you roll 91 or higher, the gods keep you. You do not become resurrected. What else? Intelligence. If you're a wizard and you have a 14 intelligence and you're learning a new spell, you have a 60% chance of learning it each time you try.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah.
It's like,
you had to do that with
I
your
get a
bard.
new spell, and then it's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
What's interesting, correct me if I'm wrong here,
Yeah.
but what you're talking about in 5th edition is like the D20 system.
Yes.
And that didn't really start until 3rd edition.
Right.
So like 2nd edition was like the last, where they were like, you would roll all sorts of different dice for different things.
Yeah.
And at some point they went, okay, let's simplify this and just make.
Oh, for sure. Now, it must be said that 2nd edition was a significant improvement over advanced D&D. It formalized a lot of stuff that had kind of come in through supplement, like so advanced Dungeons and Dragons had the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide and the monster manual, but additional source books came out introducing new concepts. So for instance, the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide introduced the idea of proficiencies, which is to say skills other than weapons. And Unearthed Arcana was an AD&D book that introduced a significant number of new classes. So one constraint of 1st edition or AD&D was that the only way to come up with a new kind of character was to create an entirely new class, and that was cumbersome. And so when they created 2nd edition, one of the things that they significantly simplified was the class structure. They were also responding to certain social pressures, like the Satanic Panic kind of thing. So in 2nd edition, there were kind of 3 reactions to that kind of social pressure. One was demons and devils were no longer called that; they were given other names, Beatizu and Tenari. So you couldn't be talking. You weren't talking about demons and devils.
Yeah.
They removed the assassin as a class, and they also removed the half-orc as a race because of its connection in 1st edition with evil.
Okay.
So in 2nd edition, they made an effort to kind of try and remove some of the moral ambiguity and also promote heroic team play kind of deal. But that said, in simplifying the class structure, for instance, they eliminated the assassin class, but one of the things that they did was they created 4 broad character groups: warriors, priests, wizards, and rogues. So the rogues were the thief and the bard. So what they did subsequent to that was like, okay, that's not a lot of options for playing a roguish character. They created a system for customizing the classes called kits, and they introduced supplemental books for each of the classes. So I've got one here for the fighters, the Complete Fighter's Handbook, and there was one for rogues, one for priests, one for wizards, and the idea was that you could customize your character by adding a kit to it, and that would. So what's a kit? A kit consists of the following headings: the description, what the character is, a role, how they fit into the campaign setting, and then proficiencies, both weapon and non-weapon. Like if you're a sailor, you have to know how to sail a ship, so you would gain a bonus proficiency in seamanship. Equipment, like what starting equipment you have, and then a special benefit and a special hindrance. So some benefit that you get based on the role that the character is playing, but also some hindrance. So the assassin, which had been eliminated as a class, was reintroduced as a kit for thieves. The cavalier, which had been a class in first edition, became a kit for fighters, and so on. So that had the effect of simplifying the core class structure, which I think was beneficial.
And allowing them to sell you a bunch more books.
It was very smart marketing, yes. Okay, so
they always find some way to do that in every edition.
Yes. Business is business. We live in a capitalist society.
Yeah.
So another thing that's different in second edition is that the way that multi-classing works. So in fifth edition, of course, you can choose to take a level in any class each time you gain a level. In second edition, you could demi-human characters, so elves, dwarves, gnomes, or halflings, could be multi-class, which was to say they could have more than one class when they were created. And it wasn't necessarily a choice where your experience points went, because you were earning experience points based on what you did. So let's say, for instance, you were a fighter thief, like a sneaky halfling fighter thief. If you did a lot more thief stuff, your DM is going to say, okay, you put 80% of your XP towards your thief class. But absent that, I mean, if you're doing a fairly balanced style of play, then you're going to be getting experience points in both of those classes at the same time. Now, another thing that's different is that each class had a different experience point advancement table. So fighters, to get to second level, required 2,000 experience points, whereas a rogue, a thief, or a bard only needed 1,250. So the idea that all characters were advancing in lockstep just wasn't a thing. Rogues shot up in levels faster than other characters if they could survive. Right? They were among the weaker characters.
Right.
So as compensation for that, it's like, okay, let's get you up there, get you some more hit points and some more abilities.
Is 2,000 like the lowest to get to? That's from level 1 to level 2. 2,000
for fighters, yes.
That's so much. It's like 300 right now.
I know. For a wizard, it was 2,500.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you end up with parties that are all different levels. That's very common.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Neil is saying, not levels are created equal.
Right.
So it's a level gain in a certain class would mean more than a level gain potentially in another class.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though you have different levels, that doesn't mean your party is balanced, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But another thing to consider is that let's take the example of our halfling fighter thief. And let's say that he's advanced to level 5 in fighter and level 7 in thief. If instead at creation he had decided to be a single class, either fighter or thief, the amount of experience points that he had earned that had gone to that other class, if it got shifted over to the class, the single class, it would really only give him probably one more level. So he would jump from like a 7th level thief to an 8th level thief, or a 5th level fighter to a 6th level fighter. There's no the concept of being limited to 20 levels of advancement, regardless of how many classes you're in, didn't exist. There were level limits for the demi-human races. So like, let me see if I can find it here. Or no, actually, that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which unfortunately I have lost over the past 30 years.
Sean's here watching. He says, "Geometric progression, my old nemesis."
But so yeah, level limits for advancement were placed on certain of the demi-human races. Like a halfling, for instance, I think could only go to like 8th level or 9th level as a fighter, but could go to like 15th or higher as a thief. Elves could go to like 12th level as fighters, and 15th level as wizards. And those limits weren't hard and set in stone. If you had like exceptional ability scores, they would allow you to gain a few more levels. So like theoretically, you could get to like 18th level as an elf wizard if you had an 18 intelligence or whatever. But the level limits were in place to prevent the demi-human characters from completely outshining the human characters, because human characters could not be multi-class. Instead, however, they had no level limit. Like you could become an 89th level fighter or wizard or whatever. So yeah, they had no ability to be multi-class, but they did have access to what was called dual class. And so essentially,
you switch?
You switch, yeah. So let's say you go to 4th level as a thief, but you also have a very high intelligence, and you did have to have a very high score in the primary attribute of the class you were switching to. Let's say things or transpire in the campaign that you gain access to a wizard who's willing to teach you, and so you abandon thief class and you start learning to be a wizard. So that would take place, off screen, so to speak, and then you would start adventuring again as a 1st level wizard, despite the fact that you were still a 4th level thief. You had the hit points of a 4th level thief, but if at any point during your adventure you used thieving skills, you did not gain experience points for the wizard, because you fell back into your old ways.
But you can still use those abilities if you are in a pinch or whatever.
Well, you can.
You just don't get
absolutely
XP for it.
You don't get experience points for that adventure.
Weird. Yeah.
until you become a 5th level wizard. Once you've become a 5th level wizard, you are confident enough in your new career that you can also, without penalty, use the skills of your previous career.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't it also true that when you roll a character, you have to roll your stats, and then that to some degree limits what class you can choose, because you have to have a certain intelligence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's completely different than 5th edition, and it's a pretty huge difference, I think.
Yes.
Because you can't just go into 2nd edition and be like, I'm gonna play a wizard. You might not be able to. You have to roll your stats.
Right. So the basic classes like fighter, you need the ability requirement is very simple. You need a strength of 9 or higher. However, if you want to be a paladin, you need a strength of 12 or higher, a constitution of 9 or better, wisdom of 13 or better, and a charisma of 17 or better.
Wow.
Right? So a whole lot of very convincing paladins who are not very good at fighting. So yeah, in 2nd edition, paladins were a rarity for sure. Rangers Go ahead.
Sorry, speaking of paladins, Tilly says humans also had some classes that others didn't have, if memory serves. Paladin, for example. So is that true? Like, there's certain classes that you can only play if you're a human?
Yes, absolutely. So, like, for instance, dwarves could be fighters, clerics, and thieves, but they couldn't be wizards, paladins, or rangers. Gnomes were the only, gnomes could be illusionists, which is a subtype of wizard, of course, and thieves and fighters.
Cool.
Elves. Another thing, elves were the only demi-human race that could multi-class in 3 classes. If they chose to, they could be a fighter, mage, thief.
Sweet.
Yeah. However, everyone else would be 8th level, and they'd still be 4th level in all other classes. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, another innovation in 2nd edition compared to 1st was for thieves and bards as well. So thieves had a set of 8 thieving abilities. It's been rationalized in 5th edition to things like stealth,
sleight of hand,
athletics, and thieves' tools, that kind of thing. But in 2nd edition, and this carried over from 1st, but the way that they advanced, your skills advanced in these changed in 2nd. So the thieving abilities were pickpockets, open locks, find and remove traps, move silently, hide in shadows, detect noise, climb walls, and read languages. And the way that it changed in 2nd edition was that you had a base score in each of these abilities that was adjusted based on your dexterity score. It didn't affect all of them, for instance. Like, you have dexterous score has no impact on reading languages, obviously. But
how about how dexterous your eyeballs are at, like, moving around on the page?
Right. I should go back and change all of my campaigns.
See, look at JF. He would be so good at reading.
So the innovation was that, in addition to these base scores modified by your dexterity and in some cases your race, you gained a pool of 60 percentage points that you could then distribute among those 8 abilities. So that, for instance, if you wanted to be, like, if you were a fighter thief and you were trying to be like a special forces and infiltrator kind of person, you'd put a lot of those points in move silently, hide in shadows, detect noise, but you wouldn't necessarily have good open locks or find and remove traps. Whereas in 1st edition, it was just a set table of a score, like the scores advanced in lockstep as you advanced in levels. 2nd edition allowed you to really customize your rogue characters.
What you were good at.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. A lot of variability in that respect.
Cool.
So too with priests. So there was the basic cleric.
Can we go to some more, like, general rule differences? Sorry to just completely change you, but I feel like we're honing in on some really specific stuff before talking about things like AC and stuff like that. Yeah. So, excuse me. Another system that got formalized in 2nd edition, it was introduced in AD&D, but then formalized in 2nd, was proficiencies, non-weapon proficiencies. And there's an equivalent to that, of course, in 5th edition, the skills and tool proficiencies. So in 5th edition, everything works on the D20 system. Yes.
Here, in 2nd edition, for instance, let's say direction sense as a skill was based on your wisdom. So if you had a wisdom of 13, your direction sense check is wisdom +1. So you would roll 14. You'd have to roll 14 or lower on a d20 to succeed. So checking for proficiencies, you want to roll low. Because, and you want to choose proficiencies that are linked to ability scores that are high. So you want, 15, 16, 17. Those ability scores are the ones that you want to have your proficiencies linked to if you can. Obviously, if you've got a really low wisdom but you need to know how to ride a horse, which is based on wisdom, you're going to know how to ride a horse. It's just sometimes it's going to do stuff you don't want it to do. So yeah, that's another difference is for proficiencies they are linked to ability scores, but you want to roll low.
Right.
Because you want to roll.
Sorry, did you say it was still a D20?
It is a D20. Yes. Yeah. And there are many more proficiencies. The skill list in 5th edition is things have been not condensed. What's the word I'm looking for?
They've been combined together. I feel like there's less specific,
more generalized.
Yes,
more
exactly.
generalized.
Yeah.
Some people would say streamlined.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people would say dumbed down, depending who you ask.
Yeah.
Exactly. Simplified.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So that's
Jill.
Basically...
Sorry, there's a conversation going on in chat about Thaco, so maybe we could start talking about that.
I was gonna say
but I want to say something. Like, first of all, when I first got into 2nd edition with Neil, I learned Thaco. I drew out a table that visually showed me how to tell if I hit or not. Jill, I can share that with you if you want, but also you're not going to need to worry about that because Neil is a great DM, and what he'll do is he'll tell you to roll what you need to roll, and he'll ask you what the thing is that he needs to know, and he'll just tell you if you hit or not. So we don't need to memorize it. I think I did my best to learn it, and I feel like I had a grasp of it, but I still feel like generally I would be like, okay, I roll this and I do this and this is what I got, and then we would figure it out with Neil's help. So
okay, so
are you going to try and explain it?
Well, yeah, we'll jump to Thaco. So again, this is an artifact from AD&D. Thaco was actually the simplest of the formulas for figuring out whether or not attacks hit in 1st edition, and so they chose that one for 2nd edition. Excuse me. So Thaco, of course, stands for 2-hit armor class 0.
Right.
All first level characters have a Thaco of 20, meaning that in order to hit armor class 0, you need to roll a 20. What is armor class 0?
It's a really good armor class, apparently.
Yes. As with 5th edition, the worst armor class is 10. However, in 2nd edition...
That's where the similarities end.
Yes. In 2nd edition, using Thaco, armor classes improve as they reduce. So armor class 9 is better than 10. So 5 is better than 9, 0 is better than 5.
Minus 2 is better than 0.
Yeah. So armor classes range between 10 and minus 10. Minus 12 for some dragon gods. But anyway. So let's say that JF's character in the game is that we're going to play Saturday is a fighter, and let's say that he's got a Thaco with his main weapon of 9. That means that if he rolls a 9 on a d20, he hits armor class 0. So how do you figure out what armor class you hit? You roll the d20 and you subtract what you roll from your Thaco, from your adjusted Thaco. And one of the things that I've done for all of the characters that I'm going to be handing out is I've adjusted your THAC0. So, for instance, JF's character is an 8th level fighter. So his base THAC0 as an 8th level fighter is 13. But he's got a +1 to hit because of his strength of 17. He's got a +1 to hit because he is specialized with his weapon, and he's got +2 to hit because it's a +2 weapon. So from 13, so you can either roll a die and add 4 to it, or you can adjust your THAC0. You can apply that +4 to the 13, bringing it down to a 9. So that when you roll the die, all you have to do is subtract what you roll on the die from your THAC0. So if you roll a 9, subtract it from 9 is 0. If you roll a 14, 9 minus 14 is -5.
So you would hit something
-5. Yeah. So basically, the only calculation you guys are going to have to do is when you roll your attack, subtract what you roll from your THAC0, and then tell me what that is, what armor class you hit, and I'll tell you whether or not that's good enough. So it's one of those shorthand things that you develop over 30 years.
Yeah, and
I am a slow math.
For the first,
so it might take me a bit.
Yeah, we'll be like
I'm the kind of person that now when I'm DMing, I add up the damage to reach the total instead of subtracting the damage, because I'm like, subtraction's too hard. I'm too slow. I'll just add up to the total instead.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? Because like maybe my understanding of THAC0 is off. Because that's not what I thought it was. So let's say I have a THAC0 of, and like I said, never mind the modifying it. Like, let's say I have a THAC0 of 12.
Okay.
Right. And I roll a d20.
Yeah.
And I rolled let's say a 16.
Yes.
What you're saying is that you would take off the 12 off the 16, leaving me with 4.
No.
And you would let me know. No? Okay.
The other way. It's the other way. You would subtract...
So I would take 16 off of 12.
Yes.
And then minus 4.
-4. And you would let me know if that hit.
Right.
Is that the idea that the enemy has a -4 AC?
Right. So let's say that the foe that you're fighting has an armor class of -2.
Okay.
And your THAC0 is 12. If you roll a 12, you're going to hit armor class 0. You're not going to hit them.
Okay.
If you roll a 16, 12 minus 16, what you rolled is
-4,
which is lower than or better than -2.
I suppose that makes more sense because I don't know what the enemy's AC is. Because what I was going to say is the way we did it was that I would roll the dice, and what I would do is I would take my THAC0. So let's say I had a THAC0 of 15.
Okay.
And the enemy's AC was 5. And to hit would become 10.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that works too. That works too, but it requires you to know the AC, right? Which,
I think we would have been more transparent with that stuff.
Yeah, that's me playing it close to my chest. So I like, if you're fighting someone who's wearing chainmail, which should be armor class 5, but I'm telling you that you're missing when you're hitting AC -2. If I say, or if you roll and you say, I hit armor class 0, it's like, no, you didn't hit.
Yeah. I suppose the math ends up being the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, so like I said, it's like, I've on all the character sheets, I've adjusted THAC0 based on all of your bonuses so that the only math you have to do is subtracting your roll from your THAC0 to know what armor class you hit.
We'll be pros by the end of the day Saturday. It was like a D20 in your bicep there.
So, before rolling to attack, you have to roll for initiative.
Ooh, that's a big difference.
Yes. So, initiative is based on a D10, and the lower you roll, the better. So in 5th edition, of course, the highest roll goes first. In 2nd edition, what we're going to do is each character is going to declare what they're doing. So let's say that Kate and Jill are both going to cast spells. They're both playing spellcasters, and JF is going to attack with his spear. So all three of you will
Are we
roll a
going to
D10.
move, Neil?
Pardon me?
Are we going to move?
Oh, we haven't got there yet. We're still rolling initiative.
I thought you had to say whether you were going to move when you were rolling initiative, and that adds to your thing, too. Is that not correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. So, okay. Sure.
Okay, go. You do it the way you were going to do it. I just know that moving has an impact as well, does it not?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So each of you roll a d10, and then based on the actions you intend to take, including moving, you will add something different to that die. So let's say that JF rolls a 3, and he's attacking with his spear, which has a speed factor of 6. So weapons have a speed factor. A dagger has a speed factor of 2, a spear has a speed factor of 6, etc. You add the speed factor to what you roll on the d10. Other modifiers to initiative are high dexterity. So if you have a high dexterity with a reaction adjustment, let's say a 17 dex with a +2 reaction adjustment, you're going to subtract that from your initiative roll. So JF rolled a 3 plus 6 for his spear is 9. And if he has a dexterity of 17, that's going to get reduced down to a 7. So his initiative is 7. Jill rolls an 8, but she's casting a first level spell, which has a casting time of 1. She's going to add 1 to the 8. So she's going to cast her spell on 9, minus any reaction adjustment, if any, depending on. So you'll be happy to hear, Jill, that your character has an 18 dexterity, so you will actually subtract 2 from that. So you'll be casting your spell on 7. And then Kate rolls a 10, and the spell that she's casting, because she's a priest, they tend to have higher casting times, so it's going to be a 7, and her dexterity isn't as high, so she's going to go on 17.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so basically, once everyone is rolled, including me for your foes, I'll start counting up from 1. Or from whoever's initiative is lowest. So whoever has the lowest initiative gets to act first. Now, movement in 2nd edition is slightly different than in 5th. Movement, because, again, this is an artifact from 1st edition, which was an artifact from the Chainmail tabletop war game. Movement for characters is given in inches. So humans, elves, etc. have a movement rate of 12 inches. And what that translates into is when you're outside traveling, you can move 120 yards per minute. So 12 times 10 yards. If you're inside in a dungeon or castle that may or may not be haunted, you're moving cautiously. Your movement rate per minute is going to be 12 times 10 in feet. So 120 feet is what you can cover in a round while just walking. You're moving cautiously, looking for traps, that kind of thing. In a combat situation, you can move up to half of that in a round. So you can move 60 feet and still take an attack. Now, another thing that's different about 2nd edition versus 5th is that if you gain multiple attacks, so like JF's character as an 8th level fighter specialized with his weapon is going to gain 2 attacks a round with that weapon. He does not take them both on his initiative. He takes one of them. Everyone in the combat does their first thing. And then anyone who gets to do a second thing, like a second attack with a spear, gets to do it during secondary actions. So, given that 60 feet is a lot of distance to cover, if you are moving in combat, if you move more than 20 feet, this is my own kind of house rule, I guess you could say. If you're moving to engage a foe that's 20 feet or less away from you, you can just go on your initiative. But if you're moving more than that, you're not going to get to do your attack until secondary actions. You're going to use up, because time is passing, right? Everyone else is not standing still waiting for you to do something. I understand why 5th edition, and even to a certain extent, 2nd edition, make that assumption. It really irritates me. So, luckily, I mean, most combat, especially inside a building, is going to be taking place at very close ranges. So this probably isn't going to be an issue. But if, like for instance, if somebody's fleeing, if there's a foe is fleeing, and you want to move to chase them, you can do that. You'll move your 60 feet, and you will get your attack, but it'll happen at the end of the round, as opposed to like in the normal initiative sequence or whatever. So sometimes the timing will seem a little bit weird, but it's all got to do with physics and not being able to be in two places at once.
Malacrity is saying, that's how I always did initiative. I'm just looking at the book. Apparently the standard procedure is for the party to roll initiative as a group, and they all went at once. Is that from the player's handbook?
Yes.
Oh.
Absolutely. Individual initiative is one of the optional rules. There are 3 ways of doing initiative. So the argument given under individual initiative against using it is if you've got 5 player characters and 16 monsters, you're not going to roll 21 initiative rolls. That's ridiculous. So I've always kind of used a blended situation. Like if the party is fighting another adventuring party and it's all like spellcasters and warriors and stuff, and like who gets to go first really matters, then yes, everyone's rolling initiative. However, if you're fighting like a platoon of orcs or something, I'm going to roll 1 initiative roll for all of the orcs and maybe modify it by their weapons. Like if half of them have spears and the other half have swords, and some of them are going to go on 8 and the other ones are going to go on 10, right? But almost always I'm going to do individual initiative for the player characters, simply because it represents the chaos of combat, but also the certain characters have certain advantages to initiative that are best reflected when they're acting independently in terms of their initiative.
Plus, I don't know about you, but
go ahead.
I feel it also helps to give a sense of individuality.
Yeah.
Like, our individual players, and it puts a little onus on what you want to do in your turn versus like
absolutely
acting as a whole.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's another thing that's different about 2nd edition is that we roll initiative at the beginning of every combat round. We don't roll once at the start of a combat and then just cycle through the same list. We're going to re-roll initiative every round, so things are going to switch. The ebb and flow of advantage is going to go back and forth. So, oh, hello, fish.
Does that make fights and like combat and stuff take much longer than in 5th edition?
It takes a little bit longer. I wouldn't say much. It depends on how big the fights are, right? I do tend to have in past campaigns, I do tend to overdo it, like have the party face off against like a wizard and a priest and their 3 fighter henchmen and their 8 lackeys. And so with larger groups it can slow down, but that's not really going to be an issue in this scenario.
Okay, there's some stuff in
initiative and
chat
FACA.
here. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Neil, did you ever run Rolemaster? It is very simulation based, right up your alley. That's from Sean.
I heard of it. I've never run it. No.
And you were talking
go ahead.
about what first edition was based on, which was like a models and like a miniatures game, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. A tabletop war game called Chainmail. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
What else? Oh, okay. Saving throws. Again, 5th edition, uses the D20 system. Saving throws are very straightforward. Not so much in 2nd edition. There's no such thing as saving throw proficiencies. Basically, each class has a separate table with saving throws based on your level. So, like priests have one set of saving throws, levels 1 to 3, and then they improve it 4 to 6, and then 7 to 9, etc. And there are 5 saving throws. And again, these are another artifact of that initial tabletop role-playing or war game, sort of expanded upon in 1st edition and then like carried over to 2nd edition. So the 5 types of saving throws are paralyzation, poison, or death magic. That's the first one. And these are in priority order. So if you are being targeted by death magic, like by a spell that will kill you dead, this is the saving throw you make, even though it's a spell and there is a different saving throw for spells. But because it's death magic, this one takes precedence.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
The avacadabra of saving throws, basically.
That's right. Next is rods, stabs, and wands. Then is petrification or polymorph.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's breath weapons, and then finally it's spells. So, the saving throws that you have are based on your class and your level. These are modified by certain things. So, for instance, rings of protection provide bonuses on your saving throws. If you're wearing magical armor and you're saving against something like a lightning bolt, that's going to give you a bonus on your saving throw equal to the plus of the armor. High dexterity would also be beneficial. So your defensive adjustment, let's say you've got a 17 dexterity, that's a -3 defensive adjustment. If you roll your saving throw versus a lightning bolt, you're going to get a bonus of 3 on that because of your dexterity. And similarly with mind affecting magic, high wisdom will give you a bonus. But I've written all of that on the character sheets that I'm going to be handing out. Yeah, and we'll like I said, I'll send those character sheets out a couple of days at a time, and we can definitely chat at your leisure about that beforehand. We can do a refresher right at the start of the session.
But that stuff is more on you than us as well, right?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna
sure.
say, I need you to make a whatever saving throw, and we'll just roll the die. So
Right. Yep.
I've been doing a lot of reading in the basic fantasy role-playing game, and it seems like a lot of the, well, not a lot, but there's quite a few similarities between that and 2nd edition. Like it's based off the old school role-playing games. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's really interesting seeing, I guess, the source of where they were getting these ideas from.
mm-hmm.
So
Right. Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Yeah, so I've had the impulse a couple of times, which I've never acted upon and probably never will, to take what I consider to be the best features of 5th edition and 2nd edition and combine them. But that would be a lot of work. So, yeah.
I do encourage you to do it, for what it's worth.
Well, thank you.
I was gonna say I thought of doing the same thing with 5th and 3.5.
Oh yeah.
There are things that I really like about 3.5
Mm-hmm.
that if I were to mishmash them together, I would take stuff from 5th and stuff from 3.5. Although I will admit there is stuff like, now that you're talking about it, I had completely forgotten about the initiative roles in 2nd edition, and I do like that kind of chaos of like everything is happening at the same time versus like your turn, and like an old school like Final Fantasy game where everyone's kind of just waiting to like, okay, now it's my turn to attack, and kind of simulates everything happening at the same time. I do think it's complicated. It's way more math and thinking than like 5th edition's initiative.
But it does add drama.
It does, and I think it's if you have the right group for it and they're in for it, I think it's a lot of fun.
There is Mike Merles created a 5th edition version of this type of initiative system that you can use, and Neil, I think you actually found it and showed it to me, or I don't remember where I found it.
No, but I have a PDF of it. I can send that to you, JF, if you're interested.
What he suggests is not using it like for every frickin' little battle, but for like very big moments in the story.
Your boss battles or whatever.
Then this type, because it will make it longer. It makes the combat longer, and it makes it longer by adding like fiddly things, right? But it does create this uncertainty and chaos in battle that's really engaging. So I think it's a cool idea. It's just I wouldn't apply it in every combat.
No.
No.
But Neil, if you could send that to me, that would be really cool.
Yes, I will absolutely do that. So one other thing I think we should discuss, given that both Kate and Jill are going to be playing spellcasters, is casting spells. So the in 2nd edition, casting a spell is not as easy, I would say, as in 5th edition. For instance, so again, let's say take the example of Kate casting a spell. She rolls a 10 on her initiative, and her spell has a casting time of 7. Between the initiative counts of 11 and 17, when she is actually engaged in casting that spell, if she is struck by an attack or fails a saving throw against a spell targeted at her, then her casting of that spell will be disrupted. She will lose the spell without it taking effect. So you are vulnerable to losing the spell, and additionally, I'm going to read this right from the book. During the round in which the spell is cast, the caster cannot move to dodge attacks. Therefore, no armor class benefit from dexterity is gained by spellcasters while casting spells.
Yeah.
So while you're casting the spell, you are standing stock still and vulnerable to attack. So keep that in mind.
I need to get better. Why can't I move and cast a spell?
You can. You can still move.
No, I mean dodge.
No, not while you're casting the spell, because
Why?
you are.
The idea is that you're concentrating on doing this.
Yeah.
It's the conception of how you're casting magic is difficult, right? Not everyone can do it. And so in order to do it properly, you need to concentrate to do the verbal, semantic, and use the material components to properly channel and release the magical energy.
You know when somebody's like really good at playing guitar and they can like play the guitar and sing and dance around all at the same time?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't that be like passing at that point because you're a bard and you're also a wizard?
None of those things that rock star is doing is casting a spell.
Okay. Anyways, yes. I mean, it fits with the general feel that I get from 2nd edition, which is, in general, it's a lot more tough. Like, there's some punishing things that can happen.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I agree with like the decision to make changes to the game to like limit those things a bit, but it's an interesting rule set
Yes.
and it's an interesting challenge.
Yes.
So
And a good idea for horror game.
yeah, yeah,
Because
Yes.
yeah.
like this is much more, like you said, punishing and
Yes.
difficult.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
can't necessarily just cast a spell just because you're a wizard, right? Like it might not work. Yeah.
So, yeah, the focus of fifth edition D&D is definitely that the characters are heroes, right? But second edition is still in the mindset that originated with like chainmail, the tabletop war game where the fighters, i.e., like the little miniatures you have on the board, are gonna die. They are expendable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the ones that survive are the heroes, right? So in second edition, you become a hero by surviving, as opposed to it's assumed you're already a hero.
So, Sean says, silver lining. A low-level spellcaster has so few spells per day that they will spend most battles firing crossbows and dodging with their dex bonus.
Yes, yes.
Don't worry about losing your spells. You've only got 2 anyways. Then you're not gonna be casting
Well.
spells. Actually, though,
So-
Jill's character is gonna be really cool.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Jill. So I don't know if you got the document I sent you. Okay, cool. So those are like the character is a Wushen. Is I'm using a variant from a dragon magazine, because the Wushen, well, called Wu Gen in Oriental Adventures, is really very derivative from Wizards from first edition, and it's not really suitable to the setting. So your character is unique in that you don't have a spell book that you memorize from every morning. You have learned 1 spell per level. You're 8th level, so you know 8 spells, and you have trained to use your internal energy to manifest this magic. So you spend hit points to cast your spells. So while you have hit points, you can go on casting spells. Obviously, the lower level the spell, the fewer hit points it takes. So those are the ones that you can cast most frequently. Yeah. So, but of course, then it also makes avoiding being
Damage.
injured in other ways very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And resting. Well, okay, here's another thing. There's no such thing as a short rest. No such thing as a long rest. If you're injured and you don't have access to magical healing, you gain 1 hit point for sleeping comfortably. If you sleep for the whole day and don't do anything, okay. So okay, let
So
me
it's
back
just
up.
like real life is what you're saying.
Yes. If you
I wake up
travel,
and I'm like, oh god, I think
Yeah.
I only got 1 hit point.
yes. If you spend the whole day in bed, in a comfortable bed with sufficient food and water, you can regain 3 hit points. And if after a week of that, 7 days in a row, you also gain your Constitution bonus in hit points. So let's say you've got a Constitution bonus of +2 hit points. If you spent 7 days in bed, in an inn or a home or whatever, you would gain 23 hit points. Right? So recovering takes a long time.
So if you were playing a campaign
Yes.
and you had like a rough session, but you're in like the middle of a dungeon or whatever,
Yeah.
Heal spells.
and you ran out of spell slots or whatever, would
So
you leave? Like try
well,
to leave?
there's three options. Well, 2 options really. One is you hole up somewhere, so it's a defensible location, so that you can rest, so that your healers, assuming you have clerics with you, so that your healers can regain their healing spells. and then cast them immediately next morning upon waking. Or yeah, you leave. You bug out and you recover and go back again later. There is a cleric spell. It's not one that Kate's going to have access to, called Nap, which essentially allows a spellcaster to sleep for 1 hour and gain the benefits of sleeping for a full 8 hours. So you can sleep for an hour, wake up, rememorize your spells, cast the healing spells to bring people back up. And however, it kind of short circuits your rememorizing spells every 24 hours. So you have to wait a full 18 hours before being able to memorize spells again.
I want the spell Nap in real life. Just an hour, you wake up and you're rested, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. Like, there's still an equivalent of that spell, isn't there?
Catnap.
Is that what it's called?
In fifth edition?
Yeah.
I would be surprised if there wasn't, yeah.
They had to specify the type of nap.
It's a bit different, but similar idea.
Yeah. So yeah, healing is definitely an issue. You'll be happy to know that the people sending you on this mission are going to give each of you a potion of extra healing as they send you at the door. So
plus, I'll be there.
Yes, you will be there.
Yes.
So yeah, does anyone have any other questions about?
Chat, do you guys know any other differences between 2nd edition and 5th that you did not hear?
I'm sure there are plenty. I didn't
and that's like we could go through the book cover to cover and spend hours here, but I think we covered the main things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question about spell casting, actually.
Okay.
So so I have 8 different spells I can choose from, ranging from 1st, I think, to 4th level spells.
Correct. Yes.
And so can I I have all 8 of them like prepared because I know them.
Yes.
So could I, if I wanted to, could I cast just 8? So it's not like I have spell slots.
No.
It's just however my HP lasts is how many spell slots I have.
Right, exactly. So your character has 45 hit points, and casting a 1st level spell costs you 2 hit points.
Now, this is the thing too that we should specify. Like, the class that Jill is playing is a special type of casting class. Generally in 2nd edition, this is not how spells work.
Exactly.
So generally in the morning you wake up as a wizard and you have to like memorize certain spells. And then you have those specific spells, right? So if you have like 3 3rd level spell slots and you choose like spell A twice and spell B once, then that's what you have to cast. You can't cast spell B twice. Yeah.
It's not like 3 spells and you can cast spell 1 3 times.
Exactly.
If you want to cast the spell 1 3 times, you have to memorize that 3 times.
Yes.
So you literally memorize the exact spells you're going to be casting.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it really does. Kate mentioned this the other day. It really does incentivize reconnaissance, figuring out what you're facing,
preparation
before you make those decisions, so that you are prepared.
Yeah, like
it also means that you can be completely out of luck and have spells that are completely inadequate to the situation you're in, meaning you have to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, imagine what it would be like to be that kind of wizard where it's like, like I prepared these kind of spells today because I didn't think we were going anywhere. So I prepared like water, Yeah. And then you want to go to a dungeon? Oh, no. We need to wait until tomorrow. Yeah. First, let's send somebody out there to figure out what kind of spells am I going to need in this place. I would never go anywhere as a wizard like that without knowing what I was in for.
So that's another thing that I don't think maybe it's defined in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but in 2nd edition, henchmen and hirelings were a part of the rule set. So basically, it was assumed that characters would be hiring underlings as they advanced in levels and gained wealth to do those kinds of things, right? To like set up their camps, to carry their extra gear, to do some scouting for them, and what have you. um, which is another thing that I haven't seen that in any 5th edition D&D that I've played or seen, and I think it's something that can add some richness to.
I think you can do that. It's.
Yeah, is there stuff in the D&D?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's not commonly done, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are talking about prestige classes, but we've come to the conclusion that doesn't exist in 2nd ed.
No. That's I'm pretty sure that's 3rd edition.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the closest equivalent would be like the higher ranked classes where you required more prerequisites, in a way. Like, but
right,
I know,
right.
Yeah, like paladin or
yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Cool.
So, are we going to chat about this particular module a little bit, like what the feel might be, or like if it's going to be super spooky serious, or if it's going to be a bit more lighthearted or anything like that?
Well, sure, we can do that. The way it's presented, it assumes like serious play. But if you guys want to play it for laughs, that's fine too.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo it up.
My personal preference in role-playing is to play seriously, but as a player make jokes. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like not in character, but I will
Like funny joking table talk.
Yes.
Kind of
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to
So
keep...
like the mullet of gaming, all business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a mullet RPG player.
Exactly like that. Exactly like that.
Oh, Tilly's asking a question. Or no, it's not Tilly. It's Malacrity. You guys have very similar colors. What happens when you hit 0 hit points in 2nd edition? What's that?
Oh, this is some art from the module.
Oh, very nice.
The light.
Yeah, we'll talk
okay,
more
yes.
about the actual module before we play on Saturday, but
Yeah.
to give people a preview for the feel, it's like a fantasy setting, obviously, but like medieval Japanese haunted castle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, 0 hit points. Good point. So I've always used the optional rule for bleeding out. So it according to the rules, if you reach 0 hit points, you are dead. That seems extreme. You can act at 100% capacity until you're at 0 hit points, and then you just stop.
And then you're dead forever. Yeah.
So 0 hit points. If you go to exactly 0 hit points, you are unconscious but stable. If let's say you've got 5 hit points and I hit you for 7 points, you fall down unconscious. You're at -2 hit points, and from that point on, you're going to lose 1 hit point per round, bleeding out, until you reach -10, at which point you are dead. So if one of your one of your companions hits the ground, if they go down, you got to get there and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to not be stringent with healing at below 0. When I run campaigns, basically being below 0 hit points is like being in a coma. It's like super trauma. So like a cure light wounds or a cure wounds spell, which would heal 1 to 8 hit points normally, gives you 1 hit point when I'm running a campaign. Again, because I find the most reward as a player when I'm challenged, and you got to be careful and plan, etc. In this case, it's going to be straight healing. So if somebody's down at -2 and Kate gets there and heals them for 6 points of healing, they'll be up at 4 hit points.
I have a question.
So,
okay.
Oh, JF, you go first.
Yeah, so I'm a little confused because I felt like I heard 2 different things. So
Okay.
like if I'm at -7,
Yes.
and somebody heals me for 5, where am I
Yeah.
at?
You'll be at -2. You'll go back up to -2.
Okay, so I thought you were saying that if you're in the negatives, no matter what, you just go back to 1.
He's
I thought
saying
that's
that in a campaign he would do it. He would do it that you would only gain
what... Oh, okay,
1.
so that's what we're doing in the game, but in reality, that's how it should work with the -2.
No.
No. Okay.
We're doing it the easier way for the campaign, where you just
forget. Yeah. Forget what I said. So I'll just say it again. If you're at -7 hit points and Kate comes over and heals you for 5 points, you go
Right.
up to -2.
Right.
So you're still not stable, but you're
less
not
close
as
to
close
death.
to death.
Right.
If
So
you
that's
then
the
heal-
official ruling.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Yeah.
Haunted Castle was 2nd edition the one with level draining undead. Tilly says.
Meal.
Yep. So
Is that
level-
going to happen?
Is that why
So
you
level-
leveled us up to level 8?
Is that why you gave us level 8? Oh my god.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that up, Tilly. So I understand the rationale. So like vampires, for instance, if a vampire bites you, you lose 2 levels. If a specter touches you, you lose two levels. Excuse me. And I understand the rationale behind that because the way life force is represented in D&D is hit points and hit dice. However, the idea that if I drain life energy from you, you forget how to do stuff is just dumb. So I have never used level drain.
Nice. It's good to
I
know.
have always anything that would drain levels instead drains constitution.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
you know.
I have
good,
a
but
That makes more sense.
I have a question.
Yes.
The healing potions.
Yes.
What kind of container are they in? And if you do you have to swallow a healing potion to have its effect, or can I smash a healing potion at somebody and then they gain hit points?
No.
feel better.
No. It definitely has to be drunk,
Yeah?
and it's as far as the container.
Does it have a spill-proof lid? Because if I actually knock it over, is it gonna spill?
Is it in a sippy
So-
cup?
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is that they're probably in very sturdy ceramic vials, which are sealed with corks and wax. So, it's not going to spill. It's almost certainly not going to break.
If you throw it at somebody's head.
I mean, if you fall, yeah, exactly. If you throw it at somebody, it's gonna give them a bruise and bounce off.
Okay.
If you fall 50 feet, you might smash it.
Okay. Can I pour it into somebody's mouth who's unconscious?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I just really want to know how much damage I can do with a healing potion.
Tilly's asking if we went over turning undead. We didn't cover that. Is that something that somebody's going to be able to do?
Turning undead is a thing that. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's in 5th edition too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Shugenja, the Japanese inspired priest kit that Kate is playing, do not have that capability. Undead in the more traditional D&D sense aren't really what we're talking about here. The ghosts or undead that are going to be encountered are more characterized as spirits.
Like
So-
yokai kind of thing?
Yeah. Actually, both Kate and Jill are playing Henge yokai characters. They are shape-shifting animals. Kate
Just
is a
like in
shape-shifting.
real life.
Yeah, Kate is a shape-shifting fish, and Jill is a shape-shifting dog.
I gotta work on my fish mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saving throws for objects? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was pole arms or whatever you said.
So, like, if you guys get hit by a fireball, let's say, each of you is going to make a saving throw, and if you succeed on your saving throw, all of your gear is assumed to have saved. But if you fail your saving throw, some of the stuff that you're carrying might have to also make saving throws. Like,
Just one sec.
My Tinder collection.
Oh, you can keep going.
your pouch might burn away, and then your potions might have to save against the fire or whatever. Like if a particularly high fall or something like that might require a saving throw versus crushing blow for like the potions or whatever. So yes, there are saving throws for items that are invoked in certain situations. It's a great way for DMs to cull the magic items that they regret handing out.
Been there.
Yeah.
I let the cat out so that he can come bug you now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's the constant DM's dilemma. It's like, well, this party or these foes can't defeat the party unless they have magic items, and then of course the party defeats those foes and gets the magic items. In which case, you need to deploy more powerful magic items the next time, which the characters get. Ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
That's why you have your villains self-destruct.
Yeah. So my favorite and most effective instance of taking a magic item from a character was one of our friends, Troy. He was playing in my second edition campaign. He was a cavalier, so at night. And he had a magic item called an onyx dog. It's like a little statuette of a dog which could be invoked to turn into an actual dog, which had guardian properties and tracking properties and stuff. He was a god of he was a knight dedicated to Helm, the god of guardians. So this dog was very topical for him. He really liked it and used it a lot. I had a quickling, a fairy, steal it. Like, he just ran through the camp, rooted through everybody's backpacks, found it, and took off. And to this day, I mean, we kind of put that campaign on hiatus, but like, Troy's character Devlin is still planning to find that quickling and take that, like, track him across the plains and try and get that dog back.
That'd be a fun one shot to resurrect it with, you know?
Yeah,
like
sure.
if you got the crew together and did a one shot doing that'd be really fun.
Yeah. What was that, Jay?
I was asked if he got his fantasy dog chipped. So that would help.
Next time for sure, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so any other questions? Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really
Not for me.
excited to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, should be fun. I don't know how much we'll be able to get through. The castle is quite extensive, so I'm gonna streamline a little bit, skip past some superfluous encounters and stick to the main storyline. But it's a good module, and it should be fun.
Yeah, there's always like there's a tension between like wanting to try and get to the end of the story for the stream, but also like it's not fun if you're just speed running the game. So what's the point of just like getting to the end if you didn't have fun getting there?
We'll get as far as we get, and we'll try to have fun doing it.
I'm sure of this. I'm sure of the second part. We're definitely
and
gonna
then
have
we'll
fun
pick it
doing
up next Halloween.
Yeah. Remember a year ago when we started this? Anyways, it'll be on video, so.
Yeah, the castle is the first of 4 episodes in this module, right? So I mean, we could have years worth of Halloween streams here.
There you go. Trevor, it will be on Twitch as well on Saturday, although I guess you are probably busy on Saturday. So, yes, on YouTube shortly thereafter.
Yeah, November will be when most of our Halloween stuff is posted on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe even into December.
Maybe.
Wow.
We just have a lot of stuff, and we only really post one video per week, so... But we
Yeah.
could think about... Anyway, it's just like how much we have time to edit.
Mm-hmm.
This is not our real
Nightmare
job.
What's that?
So it's like Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, that sounds like we're just about done for tonight, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for
Thank
doing
you.
all this, Neil. I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
That was a good overview, I think, of what were the differences between 5th and
Yeah.
2nd to get us ready and thinking about.
And you only had to pull me out of the weeds once.
Yeah. Thank you for being receptive to that. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. And yeah, tune in. We actually have a stream on Friday night as well. It's not D&D, it's Dread, which if you've never played Dread, it's a very rules light. It's kind of like in many ways the exact opposite of 2nd edition. It's like a very rules light system where your character sheet is just your answers to a questionnaire, and when you want to do something that's like not automatically going to succeed, instead of rolling a die, you have to pull a block from like a Jenga tower, pull it from the middle and place it on top or whatever, and that's how the game is played. And yes, Dread is fantastic. I love it. It's very good for horror and spoopy stuff, and that's what we're doing on Friday night. Jill's going to DM that, Neil and I are going to play. And then Saturday is this 2nd edition Haunted Castle at noon. So yeah, Friday 7:30 probably, right, Jill? Is that what we said?
Yep.
7:30 is our usual nighttime time, and then at noon on Saturday is our last Halloween stream. My God.
And are all those times Atlantic Standard
They
Time?
are
Yeah.
all Atlantic Standard. Atlantic Daylight Time?
Daylight time, yeah.
Oh,
Standard
yeah.
time kicks in on this
Yeah,
Sunday.
that's true.
Nova
But-
Scotia
but-
time.
but-
It's Nova
Central
Scotia
time.
time.
Yeah, Nova Scotia
Yeah.
time. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, Dread is really fun. You should tune in for Dread. It's a lot of fun. And very, because of the rules light, it ends up being very role play heavy, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you guys for being here tonight. We will talk to you soon.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.